Welcome back to my channel. This is Math with Bernie. Today we are going to be looking at Chapter 6, Section 5, More Quadratic Equations and Applications. So when you are looking at a quadratic equation and the instructions just say to solve, how do you know what to use? We've done factoring, we've done the square root method, we've done completing the square, we've done the quadratic formula. So how do you know what to use?
It's a quadratic formula.
Ask Miss Phil, and she says
Can we use any of them?
any of them. So how do you know which one is the best method to use?
Because there's three and you can use the A, B, and C.
If it's already in standard form, look at your A times C. Are there factors of 2 that subtract to give you a 3?
Yes.
Factors of 2 are 1 and 2, they subtract and give you a 1. That's your only option. So factoring is not going to work. It starts with the 2, so completing the square is not the best option. So your quadratic formula is going to be the best option. X equals the opposite of your b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c all over 2 times a.
Can we just plug it in though to the thing?
Nine plus 8 divided by 4. 17. What do you know about 17?
It is gonna stay like that.
It's a prime number, so it will not simplify. You are finished. A prime number is a number that's only divisible by itself and 1, not 1. 2 is the smallest prime number. 2 is also the only even prime number.
Isn't one a prime number? It's only divided by one in itself.
The definition is a number greater than 1. So 1, while you might think that it's a prime number, does not meet the definition because it has to be greater than 1, not equal to 1. Okay, remember when we worked these problems earlier, we didn't like the fractions. How did we get rid of those denominators? Multiply by what?
The denominator.
Least common denominator is which and which ones? Or which?
6.
And you have to have both the n and the n plus 6. So we write n plus 6, n plus 6, n plus 6. The n's divide out, distribute 3n plus 18. The n plus 6's divide out, leaving 10n. And I'm going to go ahead and distribute this n squared plus 6n. Now we're just solving, so what do?
You
Combine like terms. 18 plus 13n equals n squared plus 6n. Which side do I want to move everything to?
This side.
I would move to the right because I want my leading coefficient positive. That's just my preference. I'm going to subtract the 18 from nothing because there's no constants over there. And I'm going to subtract the 13 to get 0 equals n squared minus the 7n minus 18. Now this one we noticed pretty quick that factors of 18 that subtract to give you 7 are what? 9 and 2. N and n gives you n squared. 9 and 2 give you 18 and subtract to give you a 7. Remember the larger number takes the middle sign. Negative 9 plus 2 is a negative 7. Is there a question? N plus 2 equals 0. Subtract the 2. So n is a negative 2. N minus 9 equals 0. Add 9. So n is 9. Now, we've got to check. Back at the original problem, we had a fraction. What value of n would make 3 over n undefined? What number can you not divide by?
3. It's
Any number divided by itself is 1. What number can you never divide by? 0. So if n is 0 or if n is a -6, that's not one of our choices, so we're good. Make sure when you have a fraction that your answers do not give you a 0 in the denominator in the original. You do not have to put it back in as long as you are checking that denominator. It should work out fine. Okay, x to the 4th minus 4x squared minus 96 equals 0. Leading coefficients 1. Factors of 96 that subtract to give you 4.
Wait, why is that one only 38?
8 and 12. What did you multiply together to get x to the 4th? X squared. X squared times x squared, -12, +8 equals 0. Set each of them equal to 0. X squared minus 12 equals to 0, or x squared plus 8 equals 0. Add 12, x squared equals 12. How do you undo the square?
Divide.
Square root. X equals plus and minus. What is the perfect square in 12?
4, that'd be 2 square root.
And some of you have already jumped to the answer to square root 3. Subtract 8. X squared equals a -8. Take your square root. X equals plus and minus.
Would be I and square root 4 and 2. That would be 2
8
square root 2.
is the -1 times the 4 times the 2. So the square root of the -1 is the I. The square root of the 4 is 2.
2i, 2.
So x is positive and negative, 2i radical 2.
Wait, why was the 4 the leading coefficient?
Why was
The 4 the one you used?
here?
Yeah.
1 times 96 is 96. Factors of 96 that subtract to give you the middle term 4. That's just unfoiling. We're just going backwards when we're factoring it. This is x to the 4th. You have to have an x squared and an x squared to add to give you an x squared. So they're just taking the problem that you had and advancing it just a little bit. Do you want to see another one of those with x to the 4th? There is going to be one on your test.
Just one.
Well, in that case, maybe more than one.
Yeah, go ahead.
5x to the 4th minus 32x squared plus the 48 equals the 0.
Okay, so you're using the 32 or are you using the 5?
You're using the 5 and the 48. Now, do you want to do this by the quadratic formula? Do you want to use factoring?
You would want to do factoring.
I'm going to do something called the U substitution. Okay? If I let U equal x squared, then I would have 5u squared minus 32u plus 48 equals 0. There are no factors of 5 times 48 that are going to add to give you a -32. So if I use the quadratic formula, because now I've got a square instead of a quartic, opposite of b squared minus 4 times 5 times 48 divided by 2 times 5, which is 10, gives me the u. (32 squared) minus 4 times 5, which is 20, times 48 gives you 64. The square root of 64 is what? 32 plus 8 over 10, 32 minus 8 over 10. 32 plus 8 is 40. 40 divided by 10 is 4. 32 minus 8 is 24 over 10. Now, these are u's. What was u equal to? X squared. So x squared equals 4, and x squared equals 24 over 10. Take the square root. What's the square root of x? And plus and minus 2. Take the square root. Can I simplify the 24 over 10?
Yes.
How are you going to simplify it?
Divided by 10.
So 12 fifths underneath that radical. I can't leave the 12 and I can't leave the 5. What do you want to do first?
Multiply the 5.
Multiply by your radical 5, plus or minus. That 12 is 4 times 3 times 5 over 5. What's the square root of 4?
2.
And that leaves 15 over 5. And that's your answer.